Welcome back to the Following Films podcast. I'm your host, Chris Maynard. Today we're diving into a project that is must-see for anyone interested in lost cinematic history. One notable entry in the silent era is the loss of Lon Chaney's 1922 classic, A Blind Bargain. For decades, it's lived on in production stills and in the imaginations of horror historians. But our guest today has done something much more ambitious than a simple remake. Paul Bunnell has reimagined this macabre tale, transporting the gothic dread of the original into a stylized 70s landscape. The film follows a desperate young man, driven by the need to save his mother, strikes a devastating deal with an unhinged physician. It's a story of twisted experiments, moral decay, and the high price of hope. We're going to talk about the challenges of reviving a lost story, the influence of the Man of 1,000 Faces, working with Crispin Glover, and the process of bringing this dark vision to life. Please welcome to the show, the director of A Blind Bargain, Paul Bunnell. Thank you very much for taking time to do this. This was a movie that probably within the first 30 seconds or so, I knew that I was in good hands. And I felt very comfortable and warm watching the film because it took me back to some of the original movies that I fell in love with. Like the early John Waters stuff and early Cronenberg stuff. And I felt these nods to that style. And in turn, they were kind of homaging to the 50s. And so it felt like this thing that kind of defined my film knowledge was all kind of on display in your movie. And could you talk about your approach here to taking a lost silent film that Lon Chaney made and then adapting it as a 1970s exploitation film? It's not the standard approach I think anybody would take to the material.
Well, this project originally came about by a couple of friends of mine who wanted to make a movie. My friend John Filatico had never made a movie before. And these were a couple of film nerd friends of mine, and we all would get together and watch 16 millimeter prints every week at this guy's house. And the other guy was the writer, and he was going to direct this thing. He used to work for Corman back in the day, and John Filatico, he's a cattle rancher, you know. And I was just listening to these guys talk about this project for years, you know, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And I'm like, well, you know, if you're going to do this, let's do it. I mean, I'll type the script out because they would handwrite everything out, you know. And so I typed it out and I read it and I'm like, oh, it's not very good. It's set in contemporary times. And then John Filatico rewrote it, and sadly it wasn't much better. But what happened was the other fellow dropped out. And, you know, the other guy had actually... George Wagner discovered an actual lost Lon Chaney film. He found, being a film collector, he found a movie called Triumph in some collector's house that he was getting rid of stuff, an old nitrate. So he rescued this film, and you know, which was pretty cool. Anyway, so maybe one day, you know, A Blind Bargain will be found in a similar manner, sitting under some film collector's bed. You know. But so I decided, they asked me when George didn't want to do it anymore. John asked if I would do it, and I said, well, I'll do it if we make it into a real movie. And I have to bring some people in to make it right, and we're going to need a bigger budget. So John, being a cattle rancher, he committed to that. He thought, what else is he going to do with his money? You know, he can go to Paris and hold up the Eiffel Tower. Or he could, you know, one of those photos, or he can make a movie. So he thought, I'll make a movie. And I said, excellent choice, sir. So I immediately, knowing the script was not good, I brought in a friend of mine, Bing Bailey, who's very good with story and stuff. And he came up with a whole 1970s setting, thank goodness, because it really gave me an aesthetics to work with. Something better than just, you know, contemporary, which I'm not really too interested in showing contemporary things because, I don't know, I just like to sort of take people away from today and give them an experience. So he came up with that. He said it in 1970, made the Dominic character a Vietnam vet. a drug addict, and all of that. So that's sort of how that evolved. And I'm like, okay, now we're off to the races. We have a good story, and John and I sat down based on his outline, and we wrote all the script, the dialogue for the scenes. And John and I sat next to each other the entire time, and we wrote this thing out. And we only did one pass on it. We liked it, and there were some changes made a little bit later. But once that got approved, we decided, well, let's make the movie. And setting it in 1970, was more like eye candy for me because, it gave me the opportunity to do something creative and interesting. And I also brought in, some very talented people like costume designer Anita Rinaldi Harnden, the production designer Frida Oliva, and, my cinematographer I work with in The Ghastly Love of Johnny X, who was used to working with film, Francisco Bulgarelli. Same music composer, Ego Plum from Johnny X, and even one of the actors, Jed Rowan.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen Johnny X, but that was a sci-fi musical shot on 35 millimeter on the last black and white plus X film stock. And so that was kind of a curio of a film. But this movie was a little bit more, slightly higher budget, a low budget, but still a little bit higher than Johnny X. I shot it on Super 16, and we blew it up. Blew it up. We I didn't have any dynamite that day. No, we put it on film prints 35
Sure.
millimeter. And that's where it's screening in some theaters. And my colorist was George Coran, who worked with David Lynch on all of his films. So he did all the timing and coloring or what have you on Lynch's films, and the remastering on the Criterion films as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, George had a lot of great stories about David, and I've met David throughout the years, and I got to watch him make Wild at Heart and a lot of interesting things. But anyway, I digress. So making it into a period piece was just wonderful, and it just made sense to me because. Logically, you would want to set this film. Maybe I would have enjoyed making it as a black and white, semi-silent with film take place in the 20s. But making it in 1970 was kind of cool because that gave me some things to play with. And,
Sure.
I was around in 1970, so I remember as being a kid, the things that I grew up with. And I've always handled film and I've always shot my movies on actual film. I've never done one on digital. So that, they say, oh, shot on Kodak film. Well, that's just a novelty thing like selling vinyl records to the kids, and it's a bit of a novelty. But no, it's great. That's how I like to capture. That's my canvas. So all of these elements came together to create this movie and give it the look and feel with the music and the art direction and costumes and so forth of a period piece. And that was my approach. And I always wanted to direct an episode of Rod Serling's Night Gallery or
Yeah.
The Twilight Zone, and this was my chance to do it, to kind of have that little thing. And that was my approach to the film because we had a very short shooting schedule, 18 days.
Oh, wow.
We shot it very quickly in only 3 weeks, three 6-day weeks, which is really hard on the crew. You only give them 1 day off, but it was only 3 weeks. So, and we shot it in 2024 in May. It was more of a TV shooting schedule, but it came out, considering I didn't get to do some coverage and things, it came out fairly well, I think, considering.
I would agree. I really enjoyed the film. I think that I wouldn't have guessed that it was shot on 16. It looks great.
Super 16.
Super 16. That's the key difference.
Uses a little. So I used a 1:66 to 1 aspect ratio. So I shot. We show every ounce, every bit of that negative, which got us into trouble sometimes because you get little hairs in the gate and fuzz and stuff. But
that's not a ratio that a lot of people shoot in. I associate it with like a certain time period to some degree. You know, I
Hmm.
there's like Autumn Sonata. I think of that movie as 166, like Clockwork Orange, a handful of others
Well,
like that.
Stanley Kubrick liked
Yeah.
that format, and most of the Disney for some reason put their movies out. I think Mary Poppins, even though it's 185, the original releases were more matted for 166. But it's just interesting. I always kind of thought, oh, that'd be cool because my previous film was Scope,
Hmm.
and we shot with these beautiful Panavision anamorphic lenses. And I'm like, oh, 166, how do I wasn't too crazy about shooting it on Super 16. I wanted to do 35, but with Super 16, you get a little bit more grain.
Right.
And it really helped to sell that 1970s feel. So it's like, why not? Even though back in the 70s they were shooting on 35, but some of the film stocks weren't as good, so they came out looking grainy. But yeah, it's all worked out, and I'm a stickler for the way a film looks, the way it's photographed, and the way it sounds. And get a good cast, get out of their way, let them do what they want to do. You pick good actors, and I'm not married to the script, even my own. I'm willing to improvise and come up with
Yeah.
ideas on the set, which we did a few times. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad you liked it, though.
Well, what would you say is the biggest concession you had to make in the film itself, where there was limitation of time? You mentioned you didn't get to do coverage, things like that. Where if you had kind of the budget that you wanted and unlimited time, what would you have changed about the film? Because I think you've got something really special here. So I'm
Well,
curious.
thank you. I mean, and you're right. To, I mean, sometimes not having enough forces you to do more creative things.
Yeah.
And if I had more, maybe another week of shooting, I could have made the scenes a little more intense, perhaps, a little more cinematically interesting. That's what would have been different, I think. There would have been more cinema, in the film. I'm not crazy with my shots, but I had things planned out. But you realize when you get onto the set, when you're on such a tight schedule, you can only do so much. There were so-called gags that got overlooked because I didn't have time. There was an homage to my friend Don Coscarelli, his film Phantasm. At
Oh,
the at the
yeah.
very big yeah at the very beginning, Don saw Blind Bargain. He liked it. I showed it to him, and the opening of the movie. Oh, those are not mine. In case anybody wonders about, well, they could be my dogs.
No,
Calm down
so,
now. The
sorry about that.
werewolves
The,
are out.
I'll
They're,
get that out of there.
they're
The
coming for us. Hey, but yeah, the opening of the movie has Bill Thornbury in it, right? The star of Phantasm. If you notice that hippie, that's Bill.
oh, the guy who's asking for Valium that shows up a little bit
Yeah, the guy that
later.
says far out, man, and he's
Yeah, yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
yeah,
those.
yeah.
That's Bill, the older brother. If you know Phantasm,
I know it very well. I've
well,
seen it at
that's
least a
Bill.
dozen
He was in
times.
most all of the Phantasms. Originally, I wrote that part for Reggie Bannister, who's a good
Oh,
friend. Reggie's
yeah,
been in a couple of my movies. But Reggie wasn't doing so well, and he couldn't do it. So I'm like, who from Phantasm would do this? Oh, Bill Thornbury. I never worked. He's a super nice guy. I met him because I worked on Phantasm 3, and I was around when they were shooting 4. Heck, I met Reggie when they were doing 2, and they just finished 2. And so I've known these guys a long time. And anyhow, to cut to the chase, those little Newton's Cradle, those represented the spheres from Phantasm. And he was tripping out looking at those
oh,
things, saying
and
far
with the
out.
when they stop, of course,
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't. Of course, of
And this
course.
gag no one will ever figure out it's an homage because I finalize because we didn't have enough time. There was going to be a drilling sound heard off camera. And he's really tripping, Bill, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then we cut to a maintenance man, fixing a sign or something in the corner. And I had the guy there. He was my producer, Bing Bailey. The guy that wrote the story. He
Sure.
was ready to go. And they're like, well, we don't have time. So that whole opening, I didn't get any coverage. We had a bunch of, background players in there, all nicely dressed in period costumes. And I just couldn't, So I did it as these like a one continuous shot kind of a
Sure.
thing. There were a couple of cuts, but I did it in that manner. So I don't even know if I told that to Dawn that was supposed to be an homage. That was the whole point of getting Bill.
So funny.
So anyway, it's things like that. But honestly, the movie came out well. I mean, it's fine. It's not an action film. It's not a horror bloody thing. It's more of a psychological drama. And some people expect it to be more like The Substance, which I've never seen, by the way. I did not go see that film because I didn't want to, even though this was different, I didn't want to be influenced and people to say,
Wildly
oh, he's
different.
copying.
Could not be more different, honestly. If
Yeah,
people
I
are
mean, I hear
comparing
that. I
them,
mean, I guess that was a monster movie, right? So this movie was totally different. But anyhow, I've been making movies since I was 11, going back to the 1970s, and I just love film. I really love making films when I can, and when I do it, I want to do it right. That's why I get a good, healthy budget, and I do it right. And then you hope it comes out good. So. But this wasn't a movie I set out to make, though. Again, I just sort of stumbled onto it. Friends were doing it. They knew, I mean, George Wagner was one of the writers on Johnny X. John Filatico, good friend. So yeah, I just kind of I'm like, yeah, I think I could do this. And if I could reshape it a little bit and make it a movie that I'd want to make, which was when all the quirky kind of humorous stuff got in there. So you could
well,
blame me for that. Yeah.
I really appreciate that because this has the feeling of my favorite kind of independent film, ones where you can feel the heart coming through. You can feel that everybody that is there wants to be making this film, that this is just a passion project for everybody. Nobody's phoning it in. They're working long days. And even if everything isn't completely perfect, their hearts are perfect in it. And you can feel that. So it's that sense of like where you have some things that might feel imbalanced at times, but that actually gives it its charm.
Yeah.
When you go back and you can polish things so much sometimes that they lose their shine. And this is something that has those rough edges that I really like.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it is. It does have rough edges, and it's not a perfect film, but it certainly had a lot of heart and passion behind it, and everybody involved really enjoyed working on it. For one reason or another, whenever I meet one of my crew people or an actor, they said, we had the best time working on that film. The Ghastly Love of Johnny X was the best experience, or Blind Bargain was so much fun. And I guess I try to keep it light on the set and choose the right people. But I'm the only one really not having fun. Everybody else gets to have fun but me. But
So there's a moment where there's um, I don't know what I want to give away, but there's a moment in here that to me that visually felt like something like Caligari cabinet. And
oh yeah,
is that, I think you know what
are
I'm
you talking
about.
about the windows?
Yes. Is that by design?
That was yeah. The production designer never would have. She's very very talented, but I said I want these window. I want the set to be kind of a surreal, Caligari-esque, German expressionistic set, and I want the windows to be. I showed her examples, kind of be angular, and
Mm-hmm.
and Crispin came in and he made one. He's so smart, Crispin Glover, and he saw one window that he was going to stand in front of, and there was a break. And he said, "Oh, if we cut that, we need to cut that out so that I could be silhouetted against it and have my hand up when he does that little spiel at the end there." And so that was
yeah,
we just
yes,
yeah, we
yes.
brought it. It looked like it was framing him perfectly,
Yeah.
right? Well, originally there were two windows there. There was a bar going across the middle, and so we brought in one of the guys, and they just cut that section out, and and then it looked even better. So
I think
little
that
things,
by the time you get to that moment, um, you're either in or you're out. And so for me, that's something just solidified the movie for me, where it's just,
Yeah.
okay, I give yourself over to it. This is going to be coming from multiple directions. I just need to enjoy what they're making and not try to get ahead of it and let the film present itself to me, which I always have this tendency. You watch a lot of movies, you tend to start reducing things down and you start saying like, okay, it's similar to this, it's similar to this, similar to this. I see where this is going. But I love when a movie just tells me to stop it. You don't know where this is going. You're not going to get ahead of it. And it's not that this is like a crazy, movie with a plot twist at the end, but it's something that's
Yeah.
just telling you to give yourself over to it, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I like people going in thinking it's going to be one thing, and then they come out realizing, well, what was that all about? That we definitely veer off a little bit, but that was intentional. I wanted to do that, take a little side trip, and these characters meet the scrivener and what the painting, and it's all ambiguous, and is it a dream? Is it real? Is she hallucinating? What is the symbolism of that? And I just like people to come up with their own interpretations because even if that makes you angry, like I didn't get that, they come away and they're still thinking about the movie when they leave, and they're talking about it, and it bugs them because they can't figure it out. But I mean, I didn't. For me, it makes perfect sense to me, but
Well,
maybe some
to me, it was about the blind bargain is his, not hers,
right.
where it's the effect our choices have on others when you are selfish and you have people that are drug addicts. They have a whole wake that they leave around them. There's a world of mess that they create for the people they love around them, and the scene at the party is what really drills that home. It's done in comedy, but there is a moment where his mother's masked, and again, don't want to give that away, but to me that is, again, that's kind of it's played for laughs to some degree, but it's also something that's shocking, but it's also, this is the damage that your decisions have created, and you are the one that's going to be disgusted by your own actions in this moment. And I think that that's, to me, why it's about him instead of her bargain. I'm not sure if that's by design or not, but that's how I read it.
Well, there's a lot of blind bargains in the movie. Yeah, I mean, it's not just
True.
yeah, I mean, it's not just the one him selling his mother out, but for the money. But yeah, I think there's a lot there. It's interesting. And the more people have seen it a couple of times and they like it better the second time. Maybe because they kind of already know what to expect and they could start sorting it through in their mind. What does it all mean? But I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the theme of being happy with who you are.
Exactly.
And that's the thing I'm taking away from the mother, Joy. Be happy with who you are, and it isn't necessarily greener on the other side. The grass isn't greener unless they're smoking it. I don't know. I think somebody is smoking grass in this film.
I,
No, I don't smoke it, but you know what? I just want people to have a good time, and that's why I make movies because I like to entertain. I don't have put any political messages in. I don't have any agenda. I'm
it
not trying
doesn't
to
go that
sell them
way.
something. Just go away from the real world, sit down, try to tune everything else out, and just let it, experience it. That's what I like about cinema and going to the movies. That's what I like about that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the rewatchability of the film, because one of my first takeaways after watching this was, this is a film that I really wish would have been made 30 years ago,
Hmm.
when I rewatched films a lot more often than I do now. There was a point in time where I would, buy a movie and I would watch it 10, 20 times, no problem. It would just be, I only had so many that I could get through. Cable played things so many
Yeah.
times. Now they
Right.
could never make another movie, and I don't have enough time to watch all the things I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, life is
And
crazy now, everybody's so busy. I see you have quite a collection.
I
If
got a
I,
couple, yeah.
I love collecting physical media as
So do I.
well. And I've been collecting it for years, going back to starting with VHS and the laser discs and the DVDs and the Blu-rays and the 4Ks, everything that along the line. I even had tried for a while that RCA DiscoVision or whatever.
We had one of those. I had one of those
Yeah.
also. Yeah.
Isn't that great? They used to skip, remember?
Yep. They were
But
terrible because
they were
they
bad.
were essentially vinyl for
Yeah, isn't
movies. They
that
were
weird?
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. But so yeah, I love putting my movies out. As a matter of fact,
Are
my
you
previous film, The Ghastly Love of Johnny X, will be coming out from. I'll announce it here because they haven't announced it yet, but I'll give you a little preview. There's a company called Film Masters. I don't know if you're familiar with
I
them.
work with film masters all the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Love their stuff.
Do you know Phil Hopkins over there?
He's been a guest on this show. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, Film Masters is putting out a limited edition of The Ghastly Love of Johnny X. First time on Blu-ray, the theatrical cut. So that's coming out. Maybe street date will be October, November of this year. and I'm putting a limited edition art card because I know what I like to see.
Yeah,
So I'm putting the soundtrack CD in there as the second disc
love it.
because it is a musical, right? And then I'm putting the special art card that has a piece of the set, one of the sets. It's like it's this. It's really cool. So
Really
yeah. So if you should pick that up when it comes out. And
done.
yeah, it's being a physical media collector. But anyhow, I we're talking about a blind bargain, and yes, a blind bargain will also be getting some kind of release. We haven't finalized our distributor yet. There, we're really focusing on our theatrical distributions.
When will you be in theaters?
We're in theater. We opened in New York on April 24th. I was there in New York. I live in California, but I got back recently. We had a really good opening. We were the number one at the Angelica Theater in New York City. And it played all, 5 shows a day on 35 millimeter. So with beautiful Dolby Digital sound there, I'll tell you, it looked great, and it's playing today as we speak. So it was held over a second week, and now we're having our Los Angeles opening on May 8th, and we'll be at the New Art Theater. Where are you at? What state are you
I'm
in?
in Arizona. I'm in
Oh,
Tucson,
okay.
Arizona.
All right, cool. We might get to Arizona. Do they have Alamo Draft House out there? Those sort of things?
We don't have an Alamo Draft House here in Tucson. There might
Mhm.
be one in Phoenix. I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure.
Well,
I've
we'll
only been
see.
to them in Los Angeles and in Texas, so I'm not.
Okay. Well, you never know. They might, we're talking to one of the big guns, so who knows? We might get a big national thing from one of the big theater chains. But yeah, it's out in the theaters, and we're doing our big push here at the Lemley theaters on May 8th. I was on Greg Lemley's show recently, and then we're doing the New Art, which made Eraserhead,
Yep.
a cult classic with their midnight screenings, and one of the Alamo Draft Houses in Los Angeles. So. That's over here, and then we've got other states, Michigan and Minnesota and DC, and so they just keep coming in. So right now it's limited, but if you check our website, ablindbargainmovie.com, and go to tickets, we'll put any links on there to the theaters that's showing the film. So
That's perfect. This is one that if it does get anywhere near me, I would go see this in a theater, despite having already
oh
seen it, just because I want to know what the conversations are like coming out of the theater
yeah,
from this one.
interesting. Thank you for that. It's interesting. If you do see it in a theater, it's a totally different experience
Yeah,
because the sound design, and I do pride myself on that. I tinkered around with that going back to way back when I was a kid, reel-to-reel tape, multi-track, editing the tape with a splicer. That is so good, the sound design. So when you hear it in the theater, it's a whole other experience. And
absolutely. Yeah, and I have decent sound at home, but it doesn't get close to what you get in a movie
yeah, well, you
theater.
got like what do you have, 5.1, or they have seven? We have a
I
seven
have
one.
I'll be getting the Atmos in
Oh,
the ceiling pretty soon, so that'll be
nice.
right now. It's just the
Fantastic.
5.1, but that'll be
Well,
for my
5.1.
50th this year. So
Oh, congratulations.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, listen, I thank you for, feel free to ask any questions. I'll stay on for another 2 seconds if you want. No,
I got one thing that I always notice in independent films
yes.
is to what you were talking about is if they didn't pay attention to the sound, that's the most jarring thing. We can forgive so many things in movies,
Yeah.
especially in genre films, but if you have bad sound, it just makes it really tough to get your hand and your head around the movie.
I have a
So,
great sound mixer design, Paul Ratajik, who worked with, gosh, Reggie Bannister recommended him to me because Paul worked on Phantasm, and he
yeah,
worked with Don. He mixed John Dies at the End and Bubba Hotep and so many movies. He's getting close to retiring now, but Paul, man, I'll tell you, he is so good. And so he mixed my previous film, The Ghastly Love of Johnny X, and this new film, A Blind Bargain, and it sounds so darn good. I got to tell you, these guys are amazing. Um,
well, Paul, thank you very much for taking this time out of your afternoon. I appreciate it.
oh, of
Congratulations
course.
on the film.
Thank you.
This
Yeah.
was a welcome palate cleanser that I needed right now. So thank you very much for it.
Well, thank you so much.
And I'm looking forward to getting Johnny X on Blu-ray when that comes
Oh
out.
yeah,
So
Film Masters this
Film
year.
Masters done, sold. You got one sold at least right now.
All
So
right, I'll let Phil know there's a pre-order.
perfect. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.
Time enough to figure you out. Time enough to write this down. Wish me luck, give me hope. So I fall one more time, and I'll say I can't save you. Fell down into the bathroom, fade out into the background. Get up and fall down again. So what? I know you'll give up. Why can't you prove me wrong? There's just too much time. Why can't you prove me wrong? No way to make you mine. Why can't you prove me wrong? Nothing for each other. You'll be fine. Once more waking up face down. Two lives never to connect. You can't live there. Blocked out, shut up. So I fall one more time, and I'll say I can't save you. Why can't you prove me wrong? There's just too much time. Why can't you prove me wrong? No way to make you mine. Why can't you prove me wrong? Nothing for each other. You'll be fine. Save you now. Save you. Save you now. Save you. Save you now. Save you. My boy's cracked.